One of the most beneficial things I do for myself is read. A book can change the way that I view the world around me, and so many books have had an absolutely profound impact on my life. A lot of books have literally changed me from the person I used to be, someone that used to sit on the computer, was super overweight, didn't really want to go and achieve anything, didn't really care if I did anything other than play video games and level up my characters, to someone that you see sitting here today who runs every day, who has lost 150 pounds, and who actively goes out and seeks challenge because I want to see what I'm capable of, and I don't think that there's many limits on myself unless those limits are imposed by myself. Today we're starting a series where I share with you guys the books that I've read that have had an absolutely profound impact on my life, and hopefully you get something out of this, maybe just something to put on your reading list or an audiobook list, but just something. And today's book we're starting with is none other than, I'm sure you've heard of this one, Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. My name is Brendon. I'm a Halifax, Nova Scotia based runner who has lost over 150 pounds through the power of running and habit change, all that good stuff. If you want to hear more about that stuff or more about books that have changed me, make sure you hit that subscribe button right down below. And if you enjoyed the video, I really appreciate if you could hit the like button. Let's get into David Goggins' story. Before we get started, I recommend that you listen to this book on Audible or some other audiobook service because the audiobook just gives so much more value than actually reading the book itself. I've read the book itself, it's fantastic, but the audiobook experience with Can't Hurt Me is next level. David Goggins has an interview after every chapter with the narrator and gives his perspective of what just was read in the chapter. It's an absolute fantastic audiobook experience, and I highly recommend you listen to it. So just right off the bat, David Goggins is the real deal. A lot of people talk about how they're so tough and how they can go out there and you should change your mind by doing this, that, and the other thing. Just kind of like based on studies, David Goggins, he's the real deal. He goes out there and actually puts in the work, does the hard stuff, doesn't talk really. He goes out there and does what he wants to do. And when he is talking, he's being filmed on Instagram, running through the desert in 40 degrees Celsius heat, just telling us to get off our butt and go out there and do something better than what we're doing right now. He gets me so fired up. And this book is absolutely fantastic. So this book is about David Goggins' backstory. And it's honestly quite heartbreaking at start because his life was extremely difficult. His father was abusive, and then his mother left his father. Things were looking pretty good. He got a new stepfather and everything was happy. But then his stepfather gets murdered, and then he gets into another downward spiral, and things are just looking terrible. He gets extremely obese. His life is going nowhere. He has no prospects. It's just, you know what? It seems pretty depressing, and a lot of people will let that circumstance define them and not try to pull themselves out of it, but not David Goggins. David Goggins realized that he wants to join the Navy SEALs, and in order to be a Navy SEAL, you have to go through BUDS training, which is like an intense physical training program and all that different type of stuff. I honestly don't know the ins and outs of it, but he pretty much need to go through Navy SEAL school, which is one of the most intense things you can do in the military. And unfortunately for him, in order to get into BUDS, you need to pass an aptitude test, which he wasn't very smart. He said he couldn't read. He was extremely obese. You had to pass physical fitness tests. You had to be under a certain amount of weight. He was obese. He couldn't meet that, but he put in the work. He had 3 months to drop like over 100 pounds, and he did it, which isn't advisable. I don't advise anyone to do that. But David Goggins, he went out there and lost 103 pounds or something in like 6 months, which is absolutely insane. And that just kind of started David Goggins on this whole new lifestyle. He wasn't going to let circumstances define him. He was going to harden his mind and go seek out those challenges and really use those negative experiences that he suffered in his early life to harden his mind and use them as fuel to help him achieve things in his life. Now Goggins actively goes out and seeks those challenges. He goes out and seeks those 240-mile ultra races, all those crazy things that a lot of us just think are absolutely out of our comfort zone, out of the realm of possibility. David Goggins goes out and does it. He's a monster. There's no other way to put it. Now, some of you might not agree with David's philosophy, but pretty much he thinks suffer is equal to growth. The more that you can put your mind into that suffer zone, the more you'll learn about your mind, the more control you'll have over your mind. And controlling your mind is one of the most important things to success in anything. There's so much to the book, but that's a quick summary. But let's talk about the key points of the book that resonated with me. Key point number one that resonated with me is that your circumstance doesn't define you. David Goggins consistently says through the entire book, he should have been a statistic. And what he means by this is, based on everything that he was going through, his background, all that stuff, he should not have been exceptional. But he did not let that circumstance define him. No, he did not. He actively went out there and tried to prove people wrong. He went out there and did exceptionally hard things and broke that barrier, and he turned out to be something exceptional. His circumstance did not define him, and it shouldn't define us either. The next key point is one of the most important things for me, and why I now actively seek out challenge, is that you can use your past experiences to harden your mind. Now, he talks about all these different traumas that he's gone through and how they really impacted his life, and how for a long time he used those and kind of like win his own little pity party and all that stuff. He was like, oh man, well, this happened to me. I'm just going to sit back here and cry and eat my fast food. But no, instead, what he transformed his mind to do is use those past traumas to realize, hey, I've been through this. Why not go and do that? And then actively go and seek the next hard thing, because the only way that you can grow in his eyes is to put yourself into the suffer zone, because that's when you're going to learn the most about your mind. It's when you're going to learn to be disciplined. When you're doing those hard things comes discipline. Key point number 3 is that strong work ethic beats talent any single day. David Goggins believes in one thing: putting in the work over and over and over. It doesn't matter if you're the most talented person in the world, but if you're just going to sit there and do nothing, what good are you? It's the person that is going to put in the work continuously over and over and over when no one else is watching that is going to win. Hands down, no doubt about it. If you're not the most talented person in the world, but you put in the work consistently, you will win over those more talented people. And you know what? I'm just going to toot my own horn for 1 second. I believe that is one of my most strongest attributes is my work ethic. I am a computer programmer, but I used to fail all my computer programming classes. I wasn't the most talented person, but I realized that's what I want to do. I want to go program computers. So I put in the work ethic, and here we are today, being a computer programmer for a profession. So those are my key takeaways from the book, but how has it actually impacted me? So I do think that one of the most important things that this book has taught me and that I've used and applied to my life is realizing that there's no point in pity parties. The only thing that can come from pity parties is stagnation. There's no growth. Instead, if I use these bad things that happen to me, rather than just sitting around and sulking and being upset about them and thinking, oh, boo-hoo, poor me, if I use those instead as learning experiences and have them harden my mind so it can grow and become a stronger person through them, that is what I'd rather do, rather than just sit around and sulk. It's a lot easier said than done, and a lot harder to apply to your life. Like, I had a terrible thing happen to me in early December, and I just had to keep on reminding myself of this point that there's no point in pity parties. Let this be a learning experience and have it strengthen and harden your mind. And it really did help me get through it. The next way that this book has impacted my life is realizing that your mind kind of wants you to fail. Your mind can be your best friend, or it can be your worst enemy. I know for myself, my mind says things to me that my worst enemy would not dare even try to say to me. My mind wants me to go sit on that couch and eat bad foods and not do any exercise, and it's content with just sitting there and being comfortable. That's what your mind wants you to do. But the issue arises when your mind doesn't align with what you personally want to do. And it's up to you to shape that mind, to fight back against that mind, and realize that, okay, mind, we're going to put ourselves in really uncomfortable situations, and you're going to have to fight that mind, because your mind is going to tell you no. It's going to say you're going to hurt yourself, but you got to go out there and put yourself in those types of situations. It doesn't have to be drastic. Like for me, my mind fights me if I want to go for a 10-kilometer run. My mind fights me, but I go out there and do that 10-kilometer run. Of course, you have to be safe when you're doing anything, but just realize that your mind is your worst enemy at some points. But it's up to you to actively put yourself in those situations where your mind's telling you no, but you're doing it anyway. And eventually your mind will learn that it's there to serve you and not to control you. And that is the most powerful thing that you could do. I'm still not there. I still work on that every single day, but eventually I'm hopeful. I know that I'll be able to control my mind. And the actionable step that I've taken from this book is to actively seek out hard things. Put myself in those situations where I don't want to be in. Go out there in like freezing cold weather with no shirt on and like stay out there for like 5 seconds longer. Like your mind's telling you no, but just stay out there for those 5 extra seconds. Those types of situations is where you're going to learn a lot about your mind, and that's where your mind is going to grow and where your discipline is going to get further developed. It's a very powerful thing, folks. And that's the most actionable thing that I've taken from this book, is to go out and seek those situations where I don't want to do it. I know it's going to be uncomfortable, because those are the situations that I'm going to grow. I'm going to learn to be disciplined, and overall, it's only going to be beneficial. So folks, thank you so much for making it to the end of this little bit of a different video. I'm going to do a few of these over the next couple of months, talking about the books that have really impacted my life, and hopefully add some things to your reading list or put some stuff on your audio listening list. That's pretty awesome. Let let me know in the comment section down below of some books that have impacted your life. Thank you so much. I will see you on the next one.